Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Cooking on Wheels. Today's episode is for the Super Bowl. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not a big football fan, so I don't know which team is which or any of that stuff, but figured this is a fun recipe to make for the Super Bowl or just any kind of game day type of recipe. I thought this would be a good idea. So let's get started. So we're going to slice some shallots and onions to do a caramelized onion topping because we are making a burger, but it's going to be kind of a fancy burger. It's going to have blue cheese, bib lettuce, like I said, caramelized onions and shallots, and a spicy roasted garlic aioli. I pre-roasted the garlic, honestly. I did it last night just to save some time today, but it came out so good. I got to try a piece. I was so excited. So you're just gonna chop up your shallots and then your onion pretty thin and as tiny as you can. So the inspiration for this recipe is because over winter break I got to go to Argentina with my mom and my brother to go visit some family and to see where my mom was born and where my grandparents grew up and how they kind of had a life there. So I got to learn all about that from them and see like what their life was like there. So some of the foods that they had there though, one thing they're famous for is blue cheese, but they call it Roquefort. It's essentially the same thing, just a different name in Spanish. So that's why there's blue cheese in the recipe today. And then another thing that I learned while I was there, any restaurant that we went to, most, Italian restaurants in like New York or just in America actually in general, you know how they give like pieces of bread with butter, or sometimes you get like olive oil and balsamic vinegar, things of that, like different variations of it. In Argentina, they give you all different kinds of chimichurris and roasted garlic. So that's where I thought of the idea to include roasted garlic in this. It's also something I've just always wanted to make and I've never gotten to personally. I've tried it from restaurants and I know my mom has made it and things like that, but I've never personally gotten to make it. So I got to try that out last night, which was so much fun. Everyone in the dorm, I think, smelled the garlic though, so I don't know how thrilled they were about that. It did smell good though, I think, at least. So for the onions, I decided I'm just gonna kind of dice them because to put them on the burger, it'll kind of hold a little better, in my opinion at least, I think. But if you prefer to do like the slices, that's completely up to you. Feel free. I'm going to put them on a bowl just to save a little bit of space on my cutting board. It's working. Okay. Just as an alternative, I just want to throw a couple of pieces. If you wanted to do them in slices, normally I'd say cut them in half, and then just slice downwards, but instead I'm just cutting the downward and the slice, but all the same in the end. Still an onion, so it came out delicious. So now that we have our onions all cut up, we're gonna move over to the stove, so give me 1 minute. Okay, so now that we have everything set up, I cleared my station so that we can start caramelizing caramelizing the onions and shallots. So you're going to take your pan. I have a fun story about these pans, but let's get started first, and then I will explain. You're going to put your pan on medium heat or so. Put a little higher as well. You're going to put it straight in. And just let them heat up and start to get kind of toasty. You can put the lid on to speed up the process a little and just start like sweating them so that they eventually become a little bit more translucent. Once they do, you're going to add a little bit of butter or oil, both your choice, and then we will continue from there. Okay, so now that they started to sweat a little, they're starting to brown and get sizzly, let's take a look. Ooh. Switch this over. So you want to give them a good stir. They're getting nice and brown and toasty. So now would be the time if you want to add a little bit of oil or butter. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. It smells so good right now. Don't be afraid of the shallots. Make sure you break them up nice and good because they are a little bit stuck together. Sometimes the onions too. Make sure you move it all around. I'm going to lower my heat a little bit. And then I'm going to let them sit for another probably a minute or two. Make sure I get it all off. I'm going to cover it back up. And so you're going to let it sit for another minute or two, and then we're going to add, you can either add brown sugar or any kind of like sugar type of sweetness. I'm going to try with balsamic to see if I can make some kind of a caramelized taste to it. So. Okay, let's take a look again. I have my balsamic nice and ready. Now they're really looking good. I'm gonna give it one more good stir. They're starting really to brown and kind of become translucent. Looking so pretty. Okay, so now I'm gonna kind of add a little spot just to make a little space for the balsamic. You're gonna wanna add start with about a teaspoon and then add as needed because you don't want it to overpower the onion flavor. I'm also gonna add a little tad of butter in as well just to help with that flavor. Sometimes a mix of olive oil and butter helps kind of balance it out, but also keep it a little healthier so it's not overkill. So you're gonna slowly start to see that the onions are gonna start becoming really, really soft. I don't know if you can tell yet, but they should eventually. And you just wanna keep doing this until they kind of mush together and turn nice and brown and really soft. And we'll do a taste test soon as well. I'm gonna add a little splash more of the balsamic. About a teaspoon more at that point. Switch on because my arm's burning from mixing so much. So my fun story about these pans that I had to get you guys to wait to hear. So this brand is called Hexclad. They are a brand made by Chef Gordon Ramsay. I got to meet one of his people that work for him that advertise his company, one of the ambassadors. So I got to speak to them and tell them about Cooking on Wheels. and they asked if I wanted to try the products. Not sponsored or anything like that, just they wanted people to test them out and to give away some free pots and pans and knives. And so basically I got a whole set. It's all shared on Cooking on Wheels on Instagram and Facebook. So if you want to see everything I got and what I've been making with them, feel free to check that out. But so far, I absolutely love these pans. They're so easy to use, and I mean, look at how great they're making these onions look. Okay, so we're gonna let these sit for another maybe 2 minutes, 2 to 5 minutes, give or take, depending on how fast they're cooking for you. And then we will give them a taste test and we'll move on to our next step. So I'm gonna cover it on up. And I'll be back in a second. Okay, so let's take one last peek at these onions and see if they're good. Use a dish towel if you need to. I just learned the hard way. A little messy. Okay. Whoa. These smell and look so good. We're just gonna season with salt and pepper. Give it one more good mix. See, you know you have fun in the kitchen when you're making a big mess all over the place. I'm trying not to, but it just happens. Okay, we're gonna give it a little taste, see how they are. Not a little piece, but okay. They're so good. So I'm gonna turn my heat off and I'm gonna put these in a bowl to set aside and we'll be back for our next step. Okay, so now we have all our steps set up for the bacon. I wanted to, for the burger, sorry. I wanted to be a little bit extra and add bacon to it, to use like the bacon fat to cook the burger and make it nice and juicy. And then also I'm gonna chop up the bacon once it cools off and add a little bit of it to the aioli to add a little bit more flavor and just add almost like a little crunch to it. So it's a creamy sauce, but also with like a little crunch. I don't know. It was an idea I had. Let's make it. So I'm gonna take my bacon. I have a nice hot pan here. This is another hex-clad pan. We're just gonna place them nice and flat in the pan. You can use thick cut bacon like I have here or any other kind that you find. And again, if you don't want to add that, totally up to you. I just wanted to add a little extra level of flavor, but that's just me personally, so. Could also, never mind. I was gonna say you can add a little bit of butter, but bacon has plenty of fat in it. It doesn't need butter to help keep the pan juicy. Just gonna wanna make sure you move it around a little so it doesn't stick. These pans are really good, so nothing really sticks anyways, but just in case. So as you can see, it's already starting to let out a little bit of that bacon fat, which is going to be perfect to cook the burger in. You could also always just grill a traditional burger, cook it in a pan or the oven, whichever way that you'd like is perfectly fine. Just again, this is what I wanted to try to do. This pan's nice and big too, so it doesn't overcrowd. There's enough space for each piece. Give it some nice wiggle room. We're starting to get nice and golden brown already, which is perfect. Just what we want to see. Okay, let's take a look at this bacon. Let's see if it's nice and golden brown and crispy. Ooh, look at that, and listen to it sizzle. This came out perfect. So you're gonna wanna do the same thing on this side, wait for it to get nice and golden, and then we'll take it out of the pan, and you're gonna wanna pour pretty much most of the bacon fat, just separate into a bowl or just in the drain or whatever, just because you don't want too much because it will overpower the burger and it's just gonna overkill it. But so we will see you back for the next step when we start to cook the burgers. Okay, now that we have our bacon all done, I have it resting on a paper plate just with some paper towels lined on it so that it absorbs a little bit of that oil. And just to show you, this is the amount that came out of it, but trust me, it will help incorporate the flavor. So we're gonna take a spatula in a nice hot pan and scoop up one of our burgers. Might be easier to do it that way. Plop it right in. Listen to that sizzle. We'll do 2 more. Why not? You're gonna want to put the tiniest splash of a little bit of your oil right over each burger. I've seen some people do a similar concept with this with little like drops of butter instead. And they let it just melt into the burger as it cooks. It soaks kind of all into that burger and gets really, really good flavor to it. You don't want to let that sit. Make sure you season it. A little salt. A little pepper. And we're just going to let those sit. And we'll be back when they start to brown on one side, so that we can flip them and do the same on the other side. We're gonna season and let it sit as well. You wanna try and get it to about medium rare. That's usually the best way to cook any kind of red meat. But if you prefer a little bit further, that's up to you. Yeah, we'll be back to the next step. Okay, so our burgers are starting to brown a little bit on the sides. They're nice and bubbly too, so we're gonna flip them and see how they come out. It slipped. Try that again. There we go. Looking perfect. A little bit messy to do what I did, that I wanted to add the bacon fat and all that stuff, but it works. It just makes it a little slippery. There we go. So you're gonna wanna let them sit for about 5 minutes or so. Make sure you cut them open too, take a check on them, make sure they don't get too overcooked and that they are cooked fully as well. And then we are going to work on the aioli. Okay, so now our burgers are all done. So we're gonna just take them out of the pan, let them sit. I'm gonna put them on a cutting board, but you can put them wherever. If you have a platter or just any kind of plate will do as well. They're looking so nice and juicy. They're perfect medium rare inside. I'm gonna turn off our heat. So I'm gonna get a fresh pan. We're just going to toast the buns a little bit. That's completely optional though, you do not have to. And then we're gonna work on the aioli. Okay, so we got the pan nice and cleared off, and we're just gonna toast the buns just a little bit. Again, this is optional. Totally up to you if you want to or not or whatever. And I got brioche buns, but you can use any kind of bun that you want, anything that you like. I'm just gonna let it sit for just like a minute, literally, just to get a nice little crisp on the edge. And we're also going to make our aioli, chop up our bacon, and then it's assembly time. We're almost there. Okay, now we have everything set up for our last and final step. I've chopped up our bacon, toasted the buns, and now we're just going to make the aioli. So in a jar I have here, I roasted some garlic last night. I used elephant garlic, which I've never used before, but it was so cool. It's literally giant garlic, hence why it's called elephant garlic. So I took aluminum foil and placed the whole garlic clove, just chopped off the top just a little bit, just so there was like room for it to breathe and so you could like peel it out more easily. And then you just pour a bunch of olive oil, salt and pepper on it, and then you roast it in the oven. Make sure that the aluminum foil stays nice and tight so it seals it and lets all like the steam really build into the garlic, and it comes out literally like butter. When I show you, I'm gonna try and pick it up. It may be too soft to pick up, we're gonna find out. It just makes it to pick it up. So I did two whole bulbs of the elephant garlic. This would be equivalent to probably about 4 bulbs of like regular garlic. So for now I'm gonna do about 1. And this lasts in the fridge also for about 2 weeks or so. Just as long as you have it in a nice sealed jar or container and cover it in oil so that it doesn't dry out. This just keeps it nice and fresh and nice and buttery looking. So to that, we're also going to add some mayonnaise. Some people for aiolis tend to use eggs. I just prefer to use mayonnaise just because it is the first time I'm making an aioli. So I was like, I want to make it nice and simple and try it out for the first time. So you're gonna put about 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of mayonnaise. I kind of eyeball things all the time, so. And you can also taste this as you go along if you think it needs to be a little creamier or anything like that. We're also gonna add a little bit of lemon juice, and I think I've shared this before, but I tend to use bottled lemon juice just because I can't squeeze a lemon to juice it, or an orange or any citrus fruit like that. So this is an easier alternative for me. So you're gonna pour about 1/2 tablespoon, and again, just to taste. Set that back up. And then my secret ingredient that I get to use today, I got a whole set of these deep sea salts from Argentina. I got them at the airport actually, and they're all different flavors. So one is mint and sun-dried tomato. Another one is, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how to say it, but it is an herb that is very similar to kind of like lavender or thyme, and it's soaked into the salt. So this one's called Wildfire. This one is spicy because it's made with cayenne pepper. So we're just gonna put maybe like 2 good sprinkles because they're kind of chunky salt. It's not really thin. And then we're just gonna add a little bit of black pepper. So now we're going to blend this all up with the immersion blender. just to make sure that it is really, really smooth and creamy. And again, we will add certain ingredients as we go along if the taste feels like it needs it. Make sure you get it all mixed up. Give it a little bit of a scrape just to clean it all up. Take it off here for a minute. I'm just going to give it a little taste. Definitely needs a little bit more mayo just to just to get it a little bit more creamy. I'm gonna add a little bit of this garlic oil as well. You can add regular olive oil if you prefer, but why not add to the garlic taste a bit? Okay, I'm just gonna use the immersion blender one more time. Looking good. We're just gonna scrape this down one more time. Hopefully you don't make a mess this time like I almost did before. Okay, it's just gonna stay there for now. I'll clean it up afterwards. Okay, we're gonna taste one more time just to see. Now it's perfect. So I'm gonna clear this all up and then we're just gonna assemble. Okay, it's finally assembly time. So first we're going to grab our bun, nice and toasted. I'm gonna place it on the bottom. I'm gonna take a little smear of the garlic aioli, spread it nice and thick on the bottom. Okay. Then we are going to take our burger, place it right there. Then we are going to take a nice few pieces of this bib lettuce. I'm gonna fold it so I can get it kind of nice and layered and fluffy looking. So it's a really pretty lettuce in my opinion. It looks so like curly and just perfect lettuce, literally. Okay. Next, we're going to take a little bit of blue cheese, or like I said in Argentina, how they call it roquefort. I'm just gonna put a few chunks on there. I used kind of like a block of cheese that then I just cut so that way it was bigger chunks versus like crumbly blue cheese. Okay, it's still crumbling, but it's okay, just for the flavor of it. Add as much or as little as you like. I'm just gonna clean my hands off. Next, we're going to add a little bit of the caramelized onions. I'm gonna use a fork to scoop that up. Kind of being a mountain, this burger, but it's okay. getting a little messy. That's how you know it's good. Okay. And then we're going to top it off. I have the chopped up bacon, just a couple of pieces, nothing crazy. Just to add to the flavor. And then one last smear of our aioli on the top bun. And if you want to add a little extra, tiny pinch of the spicy salt right on top. Top it off. And there's your burger. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Cooking on Wheels. Make sure to tag me if you decide to make this recipe and post it and tell me what you think. Thanks. Bye.